Texas Open. Everyone, welcome in. Betsperts Golf here for our final major of the season, champion golfer of the year, British Open Championship. I don't know. Do we still do the British? I feel like we've as a community dropped the British. And it's fine. I'm fine with it, but it's kind of gone away.
I was adamant about it for a while, and I've softened my stance. I used to be like, "What's the British Open?" I don't know. That's what we called it. It has a special place in my heart because it's where my guy Tom Lehman got his major. He's a Minnesota golfer, so we love him up here. So, and I don't know, it's cool. The colors. I was thinking about this the other day. Augusta has their green, the green with a little bit of red and yellow, but very recognizable color palette. The bright
big yellow scoreboard.
The bright bleeping yellow. I'm trying to think of any other sporting event, anything that has such a recognizable one color like that yellow. You see that yellow anywhere on any picture of a golf course. It can be zoomed in, you can see zero, but you'd know where you're at. You're at the Open. I can't think of another one. Maybe somebody has one because the Super Bowl changes their colors around every year, and the World Series is done. Yeah. Now the logos are boring, but for the most part, iconic yellow, iconic courses, links golf, wind. Maybe last time we were here, it wasn't as bad at times, and we saw a couple of guys run away from the pack, which was fun. If one guy runs away from the pack, it's a bad Sunday. That sucks to watch. If two guys run away from the pack, that's fun. Or the one we saw with however many years ago when we had Phil and Henrik going at it, because I feel like they were 6, 7, 8 shots clear of third place.
I think 11.
11? Okay, I felt like I was starting so high, and I'm like, was it 8 or 9?
No, it was 11. It was JB Holmes was everyone else was, a lot of people were even or over par, and these guys kind of ran away and made it, Ryder Cup style matchup for
that's a
good championship.
It's a good trivia question. The JB Holmes thing. We had a not to pivot off golf, and I'm going to do this really quickly, but a great one last night from Drew when we were doing NFL previews. Will Levis is the blank highest paid quarterback in the division.
Well, so he was in the same draft class as Anthony Richardson with a worse contract. I mean, obviously Lawrence just got paid, and Stroud's in that. So he's I got backup. So I got Flacco.
So, I know. I'm just getting to the punchline. Eighth, less than his backup and all other 3 backups. It just kind of fuck. That's a good piece of trivia.
That's good. That's a good nugget. That's a good nugget.
Put that along with JB Holmes. Good nuggets for this week. Real quick before we get into the British Open / the Open Championship / Troon, I do want to mention we have a contest with one of our partners, and I mean probably some of you are absolutely already eligible if you did sign up for Vivid Picks to take advantage of any of those deals with them. And you used any of the promo codes. If you used a 4for4, a DLF, Betsperts Golf, any of our sister companies, you are eligible. If you haven't yet, if you don't have a Vivid Picks account, you can get eligible by using the promo code. I'll put one in the description of the podcast and YouTube. Play a $20 entry this week for the Open. You're entered to win one of 2 $200 gift cards to Golf Galaxy. Get yourself some gear for the end of the year. All you have to do to be eligible is play $20 worth of Open Championship entries on Vivid Picks. The round 1 plays, some entry options are up already, so go check that out. If you have questions, hit us up on the Twitter, hit us up in the email, hit us up in the comments here or on the YouTube. So we can certainly help you with that. I'll have some more information up on the site, and the rules will be in the description link as well. Royal Troon.
Well, real quick,
you have to have somebody.
A cool thing about the Vivid thing is I think you can do, it's up to 20. So if you wanted to build $4 or $5 cards,
$5 entries
Yeah.
4 times for sure.
Yeah, which is cool. $200 to Golf Galaxy. Go put a new Volkey wedge in your bag. Those things are just. I got a 52 degree earlier in the year, Andy. I need to get a 62 in there. Those things are like, I don't know.
I need good wedges.
You still got to do the job, but those things are nice. So yeah, go add yourself some stuff to the tail end of the year before summer runs away and we can't get out in golf. But yeah, I'm excited about Troon, man. I love obviously this style of golf. I think it's because it's so foreign to what we see week in and week out. But Troon in particular, I think is a really unique track. Like St. Andrews is great, right? Because it's historic and it's the home of golf, and we're still in Scotland. But Troon, in terms of like an actual test for these guys, I think it's going to be really cool. And listening to some of the quotes and some of the stuff that you've heard from the guys on the course already, it's essentially 3 separate courses all in one, right? It is like segmented out by, 3 separate 6-hole courses. And I think it's going to be a very, very interesting to watch. And weather looks like it's going to be a problem. Now, obviously, we're in the coast in Scotland. That can take drastic shifts fairly quickly, but there's going to be a factor. Pretty benign conditions last week for those guys to go out and fire in preparation of this, and they didn't really get the test to do it, and they're going to get it this week. It feels like rain is in the forecast for all the days, winds steady, with wind gusts up to 30, 35. Thursday in particular doesn't look great. And again, this shifts massively. We're still 48 hours out, but it looks like it's going to be an open championship test, and it's going to be a very, very interesting way to see how guys kind of handle this place.
Yeah, we're still a little ways out, but it is looking like early in the week into Friday and Saturday, maybe until we have some nasty wind, which is the course's biggest defense outside of the fact that we got a lot of rain. It's not been that long since we've been here. We've seen this course semi-recently. They're saying the rough is nastier, and it's just been, again, because of the weather. They added 3 bunkers, I think 2 on the same hole, both on the front 9, which it's the easier half of the course. There's a weird dichotomy to the course. Like 8 of the 9 hardest holes are in the back. So if if you're live betting, and I'm sure they account for this somewhat, but if you have a guy you think can shake it off after a bad first 9, if he starts on 10 on Thursday, and you think he can get it back together, maybe something to look for, because it is considerably easier to score on the front 9 here. So be interesting to see, how the weather how guys are handling, just not playing links golf all that much, especially for a bunch of the Americans. Some guys didn't even go play Renaissance, which isn't true links, but still there's enough of the similarities there that it probably does help to go play that. We've seen that in the past few years where some of the guys who have played well at the Open have done well. Even if it wasn't doing, super high on the scoreboard, which Colin's a good example of that, I guess 3 years ago at Scotland. I mean, some of those, for the most part, those guys had their irons dialed in or had figured out how to hit off this turf, because the turf is a little different.
Sure.
It's got a little bit of different density to it, they say. It's bouncier. And I mean, that's what we're going to see. We're going to see fast, bouncy fairways. I think that's one of the most unique things. And Ron put it in a way, I wish I could find this in his preview. I don't think I'll have time to do it without a huge gap in space. But basically the landing areas are smaller than they look based on how they funnel the ball around. Like, you look like you have this huge area, not huge maybe, but a decent fair-sized area to land the ball. And you actually have a portion of that, because there's certain spots where if you hit it to that part of the landing area, it's just going to funnel towards rough. It's going to funnel more quickly towards one of these, these pop bunkers, these fairway bunkers, the bunkers that jut out into the, into the landing areas a little. So that's going to be interesting. Hopefully the guys are figuring that out. That would be my biggest thing, is figuring out where every tee shot's going and have my clubs figured out, because you've seen that with the Phil and Henrik year, and that course was a little shorter when they played it, not by a ton, But I mean, they didn't hit driver much. There's going to be a ton of clubbing down. There's a few holes that you can attack, especially again on the front nine. But there's going to be some clubbing down and smart golf, just putting it in a good position for you to succeed with your second shot, because you can really blunder some of these holes. If you find some of these bunkers and it's clearly up against it, it's a full shot. At that point, you're hitting out sideways, you're hitting out backwards. There's no, oh, well, at least I can advance the ball like 60 yards and I have an easier wedge shot in for my approach. It's like, no, you're hitting freaking sideways and you're still hitting 210 here.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. We saw Phil, who's, typically historically overly aggressive off the tee, club down, and hit, driving iron a lot. Stenson, who notoriously is a little conservative, definitely a fairway finder, just pretty much hit 3-wood exclusively, and it felt like he had great control over that, and that worked out really well for him. So I'm interested to see how guys approach that early. I think that's going to be an early tell and watching in terms of just guys' overall strategy, especially depending on how you are in the mix. As you mentioned, like, are you starting in the front? Are you starting in the back? Your birdie holes are the first 6, not necessarily all of them, but like you really want to take advantage of some of those. You're downwind a little bit. You get into a little bit of a crosswind in the middle of the course, tighter conditions in terms of, driving the golf ball and how do you navigate with that crosswind. And then your back finishing stretch is just, for the most part, again, the prevailing wind is dead into your face. And you said some of the longer holes too, it's significantly longer on the back and you have one fewer par 5. So when you kind of consider all these things, like the back is just, that finishing stretch is tough. So even early, if you're looking to live bet outrights early, you can get a guy that just maybe is one of the favorites that gets out in the front and hangs a couple of low numbers, and that kind of shifts the market. And your guy that maybe stumbled and is +1 through 4 or 5 holes through the back just not, he's not dead after playing just a couple of holes. So there could be some opportunities there too. Interesting to see how Underdog approaches it too, because Underdog will post like front 9 score, back 9 score. Interested to see how they kind of incorporate that into their games this week as well. Just to be some unique opportunities. But yeah, I mean, clubbing down off the tee is something we can obviously look at here through the rabbit hole. How you navigate, high missed fairway penalty, because that's what we have here too. Like you said, the rough should be a little bit thicker. Some of the guys are saying, like, if you're just off, you're probably okay. But if you're a little bit more than that first cut, it's a little gnarly. And definitely the guys that had played here in years past think it's significantly worse than it was last time we were here. So just keeping the ball in play off the tee is paramount. And, we don't have all the details in terms of like size of these greens. Ron, tried to do some notes in the flyover stuff, and he thinks they're maybe 45, 5K square foot, which is pretty small, especially relative to like a 7,400 yard course. So smaller greens, wind's a problem. Hopefully we have a test that's, kind of right around maybe 10, maybe high single digits is what I think we might be looking at if the weather holds is what we see for a forecast right now.
Yeah, really depends on if we get the 30-mile-an-hour gusts cutting across.
Correct.
And guys are going to have to adjust their game for that sort of thing, because the course isn't that hard. Like in general,
I mean, none of them are, right? If there's no weather, they're all.
If there's no weather, like the scoring, especially like we said, we're gonna say it over and over. The front 9, like guys can go put up a pretty good number. And yeah, both you have 2 par 5s. That's part of what makes it easier. The par 5s are essentially the 3 easiest holes, and if you can score on both of them and find 2 or 3 more birdies, find yourself 31 heading in. Not in. It's like an out and back. It's not the kind of course where you end up at the clubhouse twice. You end up a long way away from the clubhouse at this corner course. But I'm excited for that part. Other course notes I had on this one. It's a Royal. We need to be calling it Royal Troon.
It is a Royal.
I went down a long rabbit hole on this one other year on like how it becomes Royal. It used to be like somebody from the royal family had to have a membership at your course, and that was like what made it. This is the only course in the UK that was given royal status by Queen Elizabeth. A lot of them were from forever and ever ago. Like George V made a lot of these royal. So it didn't get royal status till the 70s.
Wow.
But it is a royal troon, so we will give it that the respect it deserves. Bunker placement, strategic, long. It is kind of long, despite we talked about, clubbing down, but you do get a lot of run out if you hit it in the right places. The bunkering is heavy, and it's not like heavy fairway or heavy green protectors. It's both. About 200 yards in increase over the 16 revival, still a 71. So we're going to be 7,400 yards if they're using the deepest tees. And the slow greens, like this, the stimp is going to be like 9.5, 10. So you're going to have slowish, easy-ish greens. They're not going to be super tough if you find yourself with good proximity. They're firm, they're small, they're hard to carry or hard to catch. And we do see some of those runoff areas that are going to be super tricky. Around the green is going to be tougher here if you're not hitting it well.
Yep.
But and like we said, with the weather, with the rain, the rough is expected to be thick. That'll create more of a premium for the fairway accuracy. And then, the wind is the big X factor I have here.
Yeah, as you said, they were all kind of made to be picked apart. Right? If we're not dealing with weather, it's what happened last week in Scotland, right? We have a couple of iterations of that event being a co-sanctioned event. First year we have Xander in weather, and the winning score is 7 under. Right. Last week we had no weather and we were pushing upper teens and 20s. Right. So that's part of why we have really slow greens too. Right. You can't make these things 11, bake them out and then have 30-mile-an-hour winds. Like dudes would be putting into the bunker. So it does look like it's going to have some teeth though, weather-wise, whether it's as we have reported now or what's to come. Looks like it's going to be rainy. That can theoretically soften it, but if the wind is still coming, that's still a problem for these guys, especially like we said, once you get into 7 to 18, definitely gets a little bit more challenging. So, all right, should we get into it a little bit? What do we got? What do we got first? We want to talk about a little bit about our friends over at Pick 6.
Yeah, we are sponsored again today by our friends over at Pick 6. DraftKings, not just best ball. And if you do want some of that, they have that as well. But if you ever played the over-under game with your friends, betting on how much you could eat, how much you could drink, that one gets dangerous in a certain amount of time. I know you love this game. Pick 6, the new fantasy game from DraftKings. Here's how to play during the golf season. You pick between 2 and 6 golfers and choose if they'll have more or less of a certain stat like holes played, birdies, pars, etc. And then you track your picks in the app and you can get a pretty heavy multiplier. If you hit some of these, you hit all your picks. So download it today. The link is in the show notes of the podcast and the YouTube description. If you use promo code BSG as a new customer, you'll get to play $5 and get 50 in Pick 6 credits. So promo code BSG for new customers to play $5 and get 50 in Pick 6 credits only on DraftKings Pick 6. Download today. The crown is yours. Key stats for this.
So you got to be
only approach.
Yeah. Well, you got to be
hit the fairway.
Hit play.
Hit good. Yep.
Yep. Yeah.
Fairway accuracy approach. That's it. That's where I stopped.
Hybrid of driving accuracy, distance from the edge of the fairway. Hybrid. I want you to have some success on links style courses. You can look at link style courses up to the past 5 years in the rabbit hole, which I think is useful. And approach when gaining on approach is difficult. Approach in the smaller greens if you think that that's something that you want to do, because we have that here too. Lots of different ways, because I think we have a good mix of like proximity ranges. You'll have some holes where you'll have a wedge. These guys will have $130 in, and then you'll have some longer irons too, especially if you're having the club down, hang back a little bit into the prevailing winds. Like I was listening to Zalatoris last night, and he's talking about how holes same distance. You're taking one, you're hitting driver pitching wedge, and the other one, if you hit driver, you're still left with like a 5 iron in. right? And it's just depending on what the wind is doing. And if you club down, that obviously changes the dynamic of those two. So there's not like especially this week it's all about how the guy in particular interprets his best way to navigate this place. I don't think you're going to have a great way to kind of bucket approach ranges. So there might be some guys that just like, hey, look, I'm going to try to overpower it. I'm just going to give it a go, right? You're going to see obviously we're fascinated with what does Bryson do? Can Rory still get away with driver in some of these spots and kind of change the dynamic and the math of this course comparatively? So going to be really interesting to see early on Thursday what these guys are doing with particular holes. But yeah, to your point, you got to be in play off the tee and you got to be dialed in with your approach stuff. Small greens, so they feel inevitable to miss a little bit. So we know short game is going to be something that matters here this week. I just don't know how much to weigh it. I don't typically weigh it a ton because obviously if you're dialed in with the first two, it matters a little bit less. But yeah.
Yeah, I ended up just not doing it. I only used 5 stats in my custom rabbit hole model I built this week.
Basic bitch.
One of them was I didn't go the full just using links. I went, I think, the last 3 years of playing at the Renaissance or the Open.
Okay.
Not or and. So I picked Liverpool, Royal St. George's, Portrush. I'm trying to think of the 3 courses now I would have used.
Can we bring it up?
Yeah, pull it up.
Let's take a look at this bad boy.
So, and obviously the Renaissance Club. Trunan. It's a callback to Frank Brank joke. Poonin.
All right, let's see. You got
Scotty Scheffler. Look at you. So if you look over at that total one, hover over that total one on the far right there. My last data point I put in. So Renaissance, which is Scottish Open, last 3 years. Royal Liverpool, St. Andrews. I guess I only used 2 of those courses. Never mind. Maybe I have to go back and fix this because I meant to put in one more course. But I did look at, how have you done on links lately? Not a huge sample, but I did kind of go with a minimum rounds on that one. And then the rest of it is, if you look at the rest of my model, man, it is ball striking and approach and driving. So like we went ball striking in windy conditions for the last 2 years. We went greens and regulation, just simply greens and regulation last 12 months. Not small greens, not windy, not tough, just all. Like how have you been just overall at finding greens when you need to? Driving accuracy, obviously huge. Just again, just the past 12 months of driving accuracy on all courses. It would be nice to whittle that down a little, but at the same time, I like bigger samples sometimes. Same thing with approach. Just give me a big sample size of how your approach game has been playing. And I'm feeling like I'm going to do something shorter. Like I'm going to go look and do a smaller model with approach play, maybe the last month. Just looking at that and mixing it with some other smaller, more granular stats to start looking at how I'm going to approach some of these guys for maybe positional bets. But I was going to land on some of these guys as it was. So most of the bets I made are very much visible to you right now.
Okay.
I think we have to address 2 guys quick before we get into deep, because I want your opinion on both.
First of all, my theory is that you built a model that would bury Rory, and you did it.
I thought he would be higher because of how well he's played in at Genesis, or excuse me. Oh yeah, the Genesis Scottish Open. True. How well he's played here. He should play well in links. Let's start with Rory then. We'll go to Scotty second. How much are you weighing strokes gained, mind is broken? Like, there's no way you're not thinking about that putt for the rest, both of those putts for the rest of your life. If he's in contention, these slow greens, I'm calling it now. He's leaving an important putt short on Sunday.
What's interesting is that he said that he felt that the Cam Smith Open at St. Andrews was going to stick with him longer in terms of like opportunities lost. And he didn't have he played okay that day. Like Cam Smith just went out and beat him. So it's not like he had one of those moments where we can call back, obviously, the putts on 16 and 18 from Pinehurst. he got beat at St. Andrews. So that's an interesting thought. Maybe that is also just like self-preservation, right? That's just like I need to tell myself the story to pick up and move forward. I'd like to see that he was competitive and in the mix coming out last week in Scotland as well. I'm not interested in Rory at price, but I'd be shocked if he's not in the mix. But to your point, like it's got to be there, right? He's human, and I think part of what people like me that like Rory, and I think it's the same thing that people like you that don't like Rory don't like. I do like the vulnerability. I do like that he's a little bit of a feeler and a little bit of an oversharer, and sometimes I can come off and rub some people the wrong way. But I love that a lot of these dudes, you stick a mic in their face and they're just very plain and vanilla. And I feel like Rory has always just been authentic, very like anti-Tiger in that, whereas Tiger was a robot, didn't want to give you anything, cut your throat, didn't want to give anyone an edge. And Rory seems to be a little bit more approachable. And I think that does have an impact. I don't know if it shows up this week, but he is human.
I think it shows up more on weeks like this. I mean, we've seen it at Augusta. We've seen it obviously now at Pinehurst. Like it definitely it eats. Golf is so mental. I mean, even for shitty golfers like us, there's gonna be a bad shot early in the round. You're gonna think about that every time you hit an iron, like for the rest of the day. I can't imagine having one like that. Just I don't know how he slept for a week. I did feel bad for him, and it's obviously a rough go. I think the one that would bother me the most would be the weekend. It would have been 2021 Masters, I think. He was very competitive, and then just went. Maybe it was the Fall Masters. It was the DJ one, I think.
Okay.
He went out and just didn't do shit over the weekend, which is anti-Rory at the Masters. Usually he's playing catch-up and shooting a 64 to put himself in contention when he never actually was. But he was looking very good after the first two rounds, and then just kind of played like shit over the weekend, let everyone else get at him. I think he finished 5th or 6th. That one would bug me the most because like that's the one you need. That's the jewel in the Infinity Gauntlet. Obviously, the Pinehurst putts are rough, though. So I'm very high on Rory. Like, in general, the number's fair to me, though.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think it's a bad number. Where are we at? Are we drifting a little bit? Let me see. I haven't looked at it this morning to see if we've cooked out a little bit. 8s, 8 and change at Chris. So, yeah, it seems relatively fair. You wanted to touch on Scotty. Scotty's drifted a little bit, seeing a nice number on Chris.
I agree with the drift. I don't think he should be this high. He's so good. He's one of the best golfers, but his distance gives him a big advantage with how well he plays his second shots. And I know he's a very smart golfer. He's probably not going to make huge mistakes here, but with distance mitigated a little, I don't know if he should be as high as he is.
He's also like first in the field in distance from the edge of the fairway, right? He just keeps the ball in play for the most part too.
No, that's what I'm thinking.
He's great.
I'm not saying like, hey, it's links golf. It's not a course that's going to play to his strengths. We should bet him to miss the cut. I think his floor is still so incredibly high. I just don't think I can get behind him to be the guy that puts it together and wins this at the current price. That's not what I'm saying. I'd be surprised if Scotty Scheffler wins a major tournament. He's still very, very good, but at the current price, I can't do that thing.
Yeah, no, I understand that too. I mean, and I went all in at Pinehurst, thought it was, great fit.
It
was sideways real quick, and he still was top 3 ball striking that week. He couldn't make a putt. Had a couple of bad breaks in terms of the luck factor that it was kind of getting into that negative area if you missed the fairway. So, yeah, it's interesting, just kind of the stories around him or narrative around Scotty, obviously. And we haven't seen him in a couple of weeks. You bodied Tom Kim on Sunday at the Travelers, and then, took basically a month off, took his baby to Telluride and packed away and relaxed. And refreshed to come out and again, it's a one major season. It's great. He got one. He's played so well, in terms of like historical seasons. I think you can put a stamp on this as an all-time great season. 7 wins, 2 majors, puts himself in great position heading into the playoffs and whatnot. Like, could be a great season for Scotty, and it's a little bit easier to tell that story if he gets a second one. So be interested to see what happens there. Again, not we drifted the other way at Pinehurst. We get down to like 3 and change, and now we're floating to 6.
Can I interrupt you with some good news?
Yeah.
My phone is next to me, so it popped up. 2024 Wyndham Championship. Request approved. Media credentials for one, Ryan Noonan. You have a weekly media pass. 2, we will have boots on the ground. Hopefully, you have to go now. Or we're gonna get.
I talked to my wife about it a little bit last night, just to put it out there. So, okay.
But all right. Now you have to go. You got a parking pass. You got a media center workstation. You have a weekly media credentials. The media center is closed on Monday, but it'll open on Tuesday. So probably boots on the ground for the Wyndham. That's super fun.
Okay.
Enjoy that.
Yeah.
Scotty and Rory, the prices are a little dicked for me, in my opinion. Not saying I wouldn't add live if certain things went certain ways. We've seen that a couple times in Scotty's wins where he's been behind the 8 ball a little and goes out and shoots a low round on Saturday and gets himself right back in, and everybody who didn't bet him at like 10-1 is kicking themselves. So Scotty at 5-ish, Rory at 8-ish, no interest. Ludwig is probably another interesting one to real talk about. People are really quickly putting on the choker, lack of finisher tag on a guy that hasn't played all that much golf at the highest level. He's still pretty good, guys. Like, chill out with that. That said, I'm not going to bet him at this price with this field, at this course.
One of the more tilting golf experiences for me in a long time I can think of. I took 2 shots at the Apple last week with Colin and Ludwig and felt pretty good heading into Sunday morning. With both of them being in the mix, and to have that kind of collapse, and just guys going out and shooting numbers, and Ludwig in particular, shooting over par and not taking advantage of still some great ball striking. And Thursday, I've never seen it before. Colin's 5 feet from the pin, sticks it. Ludwig from 200 yards out miraculously hits Colin's ball, which is already on the green, and both balls go flying in opposite directions. And instead of them both having birdie putts, they both bogeyed. I was like, I could not believe that the 2 guys that I bet on and wanted it to not matter. And thankfully, Ludwig had crumbled enough that was not the case of why he lost, but still was just a very interesting week. I touched it on a little bit yesterday on the preview show. That Bobby Mack drop was just fucking egregious. Like,
golf rules are silly sometimes, and boy, it's zero fun when it goes against you. Well, you and I both had Wyndham Clark at LACC.
Yeah.
And when Rory plugged his ball into the side of the bunker, and they just let him put it up on the lip to essentially just have a nice little chipper putt from there. It's like, well, fuck me, that sucks. Or basically anytime someone hits it into the grandstands, it's like, good. A really, really bad shot is going to be rewarded because that grandstand normally isn't there.
I'm thinking the Valero here on the roof.
The 18 at the RBC Canadian 2 years ago, where a bunch of people ended up in those during the playoff. We had people, balls hit into the grandstands. So such is life. We will move on. And I haven't looked at who you've bet this week. I didn't get a chance to watch the show yesterday. I did bet Colin.
Same.
Yeah. I don't see how I can't here. I'm going to bet him top 10 as well. You can get 160 or better, probably 125 if you want the no dead heat rules. I think FanDuel has that, and obviously there's some offshores that have those rules as well. So I'm going to bet him top 10 as well. I think he has a very high ceiling here. Not only is it like, you have the skill set that I laid out that I think works here, but he's been playing really, really good golf lately. Basically just top 10, top 5, top 20ing everything since the Masters. He just hasn't put it all together yet. So that's why I do like to add the placement stuff there. Here's a fun one too, a guy we didn't talk about, because I do like Sung Jae. I haven't bet him. I don't think I will at current prices, but I think maybe more anomaly than signal. He's just had some bad rounds, but yeah, it's like he missed the cut at all 3 majors, and then How did the U.S. Open turn out?
He started to play better. He was so bad early, but yeah, I mean, I don't have a ton of interest, but he does feel like a fit. Like if someone was on him, I get it. I get why someone would be. Let me see. I brought up my model here real quick, and he's 15th in my model. He's getting a nice little bump for windy conditions, which is nice to see. He's played well.
Good last week again.
Yep. Distance from the edge of the fairway, he's in good shape. Approach is dialed in. I mean, there's a lot to like here in terms of, around the green proximity. He's, like I said, he's 15th. He's in a good spot. Not my cup of tea. 6,900, and he's going to be very owned in DraftKings because the scoring or pricing came out a little bit too early, and 6,900 is dirt cheap for the fit and the current form for Sanjay. But didn't make the card, but I understand why someone would go there. He just doesn't win a lot in general. Doesn't he? He'll go to the PGA National and be like the only guy in the field, and we'll still find like T6. Like he just doesn't seem to be a guy that I'm super worried about taking down majors. Just a really good golfer, is consistent, find his way into the top 20s. Poor man's Xander, I guess. Just kind of always.
And again, since the Masters, T12, T4, T9, T8, T3, T12, T4. I skipped over all the majors. Those were cut.
Yeah.
And none of them are good. So I don't think there's signal there because he just US Open putted like shit. PGA putted like absolute dog shit on a course where a lot of guys were putting well. So, I mean, he lost even more than probably, because it is relative to the field. And the Masters, he didn't play well. But just if he gets the putter together, he's gained strokes at the Scottish Open. I don't hate him. And like you said, he's going to be super popular in DFS. I'm not going to bet him. I stuck with Colin, who's kind of doing the same thing, except playing well at the majors as well. Has one of these under his belt. It's probably my favorite bet. You hunt around a little, you probably find a nice price on the prices all over the place. So like Chris is 1650. You should be able to find at least an 1800 on him. So I got an 18-1 on Colin. I think people probably even got better numbers than that. And like I said, I don't know if I want to go over these one by one, but everybody I bet, except for one, is on this card that you can see it. Tom Kim, another popular one this week. I don't think I have to explain myself there. Someone I haven't yet, but I'm looking at is Norin.
Okay.
Probably going to be a bet. Aaron Rye for sure is going to be a bet. The only thing he didn't grade out well is some of this link stuff. I don't know if I have the right sample there because he played so much, across the pond over the years. Like, I think he's probably going to be fine. And he was just more on the, some of that sample of links golf I'm looking back is while he was on the come up to becoming, pushing to be a top player at this point. But all his approach numbers and his ball striking is so good. Then a funny one that doesn't make sense. And I looked at it 8 different ways. I'm going to bet. I haven't bet Cam Young in years, I don't think. I'm going to bet Cam Young and his driver at a course where I just said you should club down. He's made it work. I don't understand it, but he's made it work at places like this.
I mean, he made it work at St. Andrews, which is just so different than what this is.
Those fairways are quite a bit different.
Yeah. And he was in the mix. It was Rory, Cam, and Cam for the most part, right? And at St. Andrews last time we were there. So, yes, links, yes, an Open Championship venue, but I think he's probably boosted artificially because of that. But I mean, all the talent in the world, right? That's the whole Cam Young thing, right? He's been in the mix a lot, especially early at major championships, and just can't close at the Valspar, and can't close when he's, in the mix in Canada and, in a weaker field. So, for me, it's is Cam Young's first win coming at the Open Championship?
I know. That would be the funniest thing, because every Cam Young backer who's just continued to bet this guy and bet this guy and bet this guy, they're not going to bet him this week. It feels really painful. Not a great Sunday for him last year out at Liverpool, but I mean, he went 68, 66 through the middle of the middle rounds. He finished T8. It's probably the second shots. If he can keep it between the between the fog lines, I think he's going to be fine. Didn't putt all that well either in some of these, but I mean, he played well at the Masters. He can compete in a good field, and his number's just so big.
Yeah, dude, just keep thinking about it was Detroit. Like,
this is such a gross one to bet, though.
Detroit, he was mean to himself. It was hard to watch. He was like self-abusing himself on the course. He was just defeated standing over the ball, and as soon as he hit it and it didn't do exactly what he wanted to, he just was cursing himself out as he walked to his next shot. It just seemed like a guy that like his headspace. He needed to talk to whoever Wyndham's talking to, that lady that that does
I like her.
Yeah, he needs to talk to Wyndham, and they need to have some meetings because it's just, you got to be nicer to yourself out there. It's a hard game. Yeah, that's a tough one. I get it. Like if you are a Cam Young guy, this is why I like my losers being further down the board. Those are cheaper like taxes to pay versus having to pay, some of the taxes for these better golfers. Though again, like as you mentioned, the price for Cam is sneaking down a little bit. So yeah, I understand it too. But I at the top for me, I was with you, but Colin, like it's kind of it for me. Like I like Ludwig again. I think he's going to be in the mix. I was just surprised to see how much shorter he was than even Colin in a lot of places. So to me, Colin having, won an Open Championship, it's been knocking on the door. Everything about Colin's game right now is, and I brought up his player page here real quick. We just kind of look at like the rolling stats and where he is above baseline. Obviously the baseline approach stuff is so good. The tee to green, the last 24 rounds, just two strokes. The around the green and the putting has been massively improved, and that's super encouraging. And just gaining consistently. You can see here, week in and week out, the putter is like, for the most part, gaining a lot per round on the field, which has not always been, Colin's MO. And you look, all rounds that we have on Colin, he's actually slightly negative to the field putter, slightly negative to the field short game, and he's currently gaining a stroke a round on the short game stuff. So
his win here was so weird because he was in really good form. He had just played well. Granted, it was like a month before, but he played really well at Torrey Pines, which made sense to everyone. Like, hey, it's Torrey Pines, and where's this guy from? And this should be easy. And he played really well. He top 5 there. Didn't play the Scottish. Was the Scottish even the run up at that point?
It was not an official event. Yeah,
I feel like it was. I don't think he played it, and all the quotes were just like he didn't like hitting off the turf. He's like, I don't know if I can do this, and then he goes out and wins. So, if you want to spend some cheap money on a guy who's not in form, I'm thinking about putting $10 on Mr. Zalatoris at 250 to 1.
Yeah, it's 250
to 1. Like I feel I'm going to have to go find like a top 40 price because when he's good and when he's back, his iron play is too good for that sort of price, and whatever top 40 is going to come with it. But I mean, he didn't play well last week. He withdrew from wherever he was the time before.
Looking at a plus 175 on Rivers to T40 is the best price that I could see currently.
I need more than that. I think I'm gonna find something to bet for him. I'm gonna bet 250. I mean, he's 250 to 1 at Bet Online right now.
It's nuts.
Bad last week. It's funny, his best category is putting last week. He was slightly above average, below on everything else. Rocket Mortgage, withdraw, cut from the U.S. Open, middling results at Valhalla, decent at the Masters though. And we've seen him like he plays well in these good fields. That was always his MO. He played really well at the Genesis, at the API. I don't know. Injury stuff's always tough because you just never know. The only guy you'll ever get injury information from is Michael Kim, because he'll just tweet it out. Hey, my neck hurts this week. I don't know if I'm going to play the Pro-Am. And then here's like 6 more tweets about it. Like, I'm going to give you here's the doctor's report. Like, he lets it all out there. Everyone else is like, I don't know. Like, I heard it from a friend of a friend, or we're getting news from a Japanese newspaper on Hideki that he might be slightly injured constantly. It is tough. So, yeah, 250 to 1. That's a fun long shot to go with. 80 on Cam Young.
Okay. Yeah, 80 on Cam Young.
I'm avoiding all the good golfers.
Yeah, well, So you got a lot of shots at the top here. So I'm with you on Colin. So who's your next guy price wise? Is Colin and then Aaron Rye or Tom Kim?
Yeah, Colin 18, and then your next Tom Kim 45-ish. It's kind of what you're going to find right now.
Yeah,
I think the best price they're pretty much 45 across the board. Aaron Rye 70, I believe was the price I got on him. Just looking if it's a little better at Chris. I feel like there hasn't been a lot of, which I don't know why. Aaron, where are you? No, he's not up at certain places. So 70, Aaron Rye. And then from there, Cam, like I said, 80. Noren, don't know. Talk to me about Noren. He's about 75 to 1 as well.
I'm not a Noren guy, but I'm seeing
110, 110 to 1.
120s. Caesars, who never has the best odds on anyone golf-wise. 125. Fanatics, if you can get down there at all. They have a 125. It not going to take you much to get down on a 125. FanDuel is a 120, more readily available. So, yeah, I mean, he's been good. He's going to keep it in play. Obviously familiar with link style courses. I know, people are on him in terms of bombs.
He looked good last week.
Yeah.
It's been a little up and down. He's had some top 20s here and there. He played well at the Memorial, but yeah, he played well last week, and savvy old vet should be able to get it here. I'm not worried about his driving distance.
Yeah, surprisingly, distance from the edge of the fairway is solid. I have him 69th in driving accuracy, which is not something I would expect. But where else does he struggle a little bit? Some of the
that was in my model. That's the lowest. Obviously, the approach has been good. The greens and regulations been good. I have him 14th in ball striking. That sample size was 2 years. Ball striking in windy conditions, so I don't know how big that sample is. And then just the link stuff, he was top 25 for me. So Noren at 75, 80 was sounding good until I found the 110.
Yeah, that's funny how that works. I can get there, and I've seen him as a popular bomb down the board. And I think if any of the majors, this is the one that does invite, I think, down the board options. Even last year, there were massive Harmon numbers, and he closed kind of, closer to the 70 range coming in form. I just don't think that is what's going to happen really at a U.S. Open or the Masters per se. I do think just the nature of Open Championships and the style of courses that these guys are playing on this week, I think that does invite options down the board. So I think it is a spot where you want to have some Norens on your card, some guys that are a little bit further down the board. I have a couple of those guys as well too. So
talk about South African Noren, who's been very popular in the.
I didn't think he was going to be that popular when I was looking.
Catching crazy steam. I don't fully understand it.
I bet him. I bet him at 110.
He played well in Andalusia, and again, people made fun of the Sergio quote because Sergio said, "Hey, if Carlos Alcaraz wins Wimbledon, which he did, we win the Euros, Spain, and then the Fireballs, which is pretty much Spanish, and me, we win Andalusia. What a weekend for Spain!" And people made a lot of jokes about that. And yes, you can joke about anything you want with Liv. I'm fine with it. I'm not a big Liv defender, but I am a defender of that course. Mm-hmm. It was a good course. You can say what you want about the field, but there's some major winners in there. There's some major winners from this year. There's at least obviously just the one, but over the past few years, I don't know, 2-3 majors. You had a Brooks, a Bryson, and a Rahm over the past 2 years. So there's some good golfers, and he played very well down at Andalusia. So
Louis Oosthuizen is who we're talking about if you were not following along.
But yeah, he's got the approach, he's got the accuracy, he's actually a above average putter. He's shorter off the tee. He's 42 years old, man. So I get it, but boy, like the where he's at now is it's the big discussion on golf Twitter about like taking the no price on some of these guys, like 72,000 to win 1,400 on Louis Oosthuizen. No, I'm expecting that to come across the Sport Trade whale trackers because the number has jumped the shark a little at some places.
Well, part of it too is I think if you use Data Golf and the Data Golf odds that they put out in terms of like fair market value odds, Louis was 110 and they have Louis at 56. So even Louis at current prices is showing as a bright green value on their screen. And I think people use, a lot of stuff on Data Golf is free and people use it. So you're still seeing this guy that's, a bright value. I bet the 110. Feel good about the 110. I mean, there's nothing more useless than golf outright closing line value, but here we are. I'd rather have it than not have it. But as you said, like we just don't see him. A lot of these guys, obviously, in the non-top echelon live guys are out of sight, out of mind. But he's got 4 T4 or better finishes in his past 8 starts on the tour. He won back-to-back DP World Tour events back in December. So it feels like he got down in Ocala, riding with the horses. He got on his John Deere when he first got that live money. And now I feel like he flipped the switch a little bit and he's like, let me get back to golf. And he's dialed in a little bit. We didn't see this for Louis at all last year. Really, even when he joined live. So seems like there's something there in terms of him being a little bit more dialed in. So, and obviously he said the fit is fantastic. He won the 2010 Open at St. Andrews. So he has an Open championship. He's familiar playing this style of golf, and minus 115 for top 40. At least that's what it was, yesterday in the morning. I don't know where we're at, and that's kind of cooking as well. But he's a popular punt for sure. Definitely down the board. Not in the plus 100s or 100 plus anymore, but still viable. I think it's a tougher sell at 70, but I don't know how much weight you put in the Data Golf stuff, but they still think he's a value. Should be closer to 50. It's crazy. Yeah, he's one of my punts.
Yeah.
I took 2 shots between
60,
there, though.
65 to 1. All right. Let's finish up with your last 2 bets then.
So I got 3 more. I got one more bomb. I'll talk about the bomb real quick. I took Russell Henley. I know it's annoying. Russell Henley is, my good Aaron Wise. Like he just shouldn't have been 170. He was 170 on Sunday night. And for whatever you think of the world golf rankings, he's top 20 in the world. He's top 20 in Data Golf's rankings. He doesn't win a bunch of golf tournaments, but like just archetype of who we think is going to win this week. Fairway finder, good iron player, and the putter's been better. So I took him at 170. I took him at 100 in the without Scotty, Rory, Colin market. I think that was available on FanDuel as well. So I think he's probably just a good fit. Does not have a great links history, does not have a great Open championship history, but T4 at Pinehurst, T4 I think 2 years ago at the Masters. When I think of like what those tests were around the green too, shaved runoffs and stuff like that, he obviously handled that pretty well in terms of like the shorter around the green stuff if he happens to miss. So I like that number at 170. It's obviously gone now. He probably should have never been there, but you can still find 120s in multiple places domestically on Russell Henley. So that's a pretty big number. Middle of the pack for me, 2 plays. One I added last night because I thought the number got too far away, and the other one that I liked quite a bit. And I'm on Big Tone. 55 on Tony.
I've seen a bunch of this.
So let's look at Tony's. Yeah, look at the profile. Look at what we've been doing lately. Well, first, just look at the finishes. He's been in the mix, right? Last 5 events, T18 or better, just continually competing. Ball striking has been fantastic, which is kind of what he always does, right? But you look at his last 100 rounds, strokes gained putting, he's losing like a half a stroke per round to the field. But you look at the last 24 rounds, look at the last 12 rounds.
Yeah.
He's gaining strokes on the green. He's gaining strokes around the green.
I mean, and some similar places as far as the greens.
Yeah. These events right here, these last 5,
Travelers.
This is, other than the Schwab, this is, a major championship, Memorial. That's a Siggy, US Open, major championship, Travelers, Siggy, right? These are good fields that he's competing and getting this done against. So, yeah, Big Tone 55 just feels too big. And I know, it's a guy that's played his best in very difficult scoring conditions, longer courses. So this is a guy that I'm fascinated by early Thursday is Tony clubbing down because his long irons are fantastic.
Yeah.
If he is just taking club head covers off and gripping and ripping, the 55 is dead in the water.
Yeah, but you're dead. And that's why I avoided him. He is a distance guy. His accuracy has been spotty. We've seen weeks where it's been good. It was good at the US Open. but he's a distance guy, and I don't love taking a distance guy to overpower this course from someone who just isn't quite in the top echelon. Like I could trust, I could trust someone like a Bryson who's put it together and won majors. To maybe try, or even Wyndham if he has shit figured out and his head's right.
He doesn't.
I did avoid. I can't this week. I bet Wyndham last week, and I bet him top 20, top 30, and boy was I pissed at him until Sunday. And then he totally redeems himself.
Yeah, but it was all putting. He lost strokes on approach.
I know. I didn't care how he did it. I needed to win.
I know. That's why I saw the big number early in the week, and I was like, "Oh man, am I going to play Wyndham next week? Maybe." And then he got touted a little bit, and that number shrunk.
To win as well. Yeah, it didn't go all that well.
So look at Finau. First in windy conditions, just overall approach. Second, all these tee to green. Some of these are like missed fairway penalty, less than driver off the tee. He's right around he's in the top 12. The putting isn't great, but then again, around the green proximity, he's second in approach. I believe this is when gaining in greens. Yeah, small greens, second in approach in that bucket as well. So there's just a lot of ball striking stuff that holds well for Tony here. So 55 felt too big and off market a little bit. So went there on Tone. The other one in the middle for me, Brooks Koepka was 55, is still 55 on Bet Rivers. It's Brooks Koepka. It's too much, right? He cut his teeth on the Challenge Tour coming up when he was trying to get his PGA Tour card. He's very familiar with links golf. He has 4 top 10s in the Open in his career. He's not been in great form on Live, but it's also just a guy that I think just doesn't kind of give a shit sometimes, wants to get really dialed in for these. And I feel like he's annoyed that he hasn't been awesome so far in the majors. 55 for that guy just feels like there's FOMO sitting on the sideline for Brooks when he gets up early and all of a sudden he's 3 under and he's looks like he might have, a first round lead and you're like, 55s are available. And I sat on my hands because he hasn't played well in an exhibition golf in Live. So
he won Singapore. Singapore's a legit course too.
Won Singapore heading into the PGA. Yeah, but then hasn't done too much since. But that's really his only win.
I looked at it. I think I'm with you there. My card's big enough, but the FOMO is going to kill me when he has a good round. I looked pretty hard at 50.
Yeah, that's a big number for that guy. You can't tell me that he's we're approaching Louis and Brooks are meeting in the middle. That's a problem, right? That doesn't check out. That doesn't pass the smell test. So Colin, Tony, Brooks, Louis, and Henley. So that's my 5.
Yeah, mine'll be Colin, Aaron Rye, Tom Kim, Cam Young, Alex Noren, and then a sprinkle on Zal because it's fun.
That's a big number.
It's just such a stupid big number. So
we'd be tripping over ourselves to bet Zal at 35 for any events.
Betting him at 18.
Locking in futures.
So many top 5s at majors.
Yeah, it's a good.
I'm doubling my bet. This is gonna be so sweet. All right, appreciate you guys. If you watch this on the YouTube, please give us a thumbs up. Support the sponsors. Check out Vivid. Get yourself in that contest. Especially if you've already signed up for Vivid using one of our promo codes. All you gotta do is go play the $20, and you're entered to win one of the two $200 Golf Galaxy gift cards. Check out DraftKings Pick 6. All the links will be in the show notes. Appreciate you guys. We'll check you next week.